chances are it's a name you've heard before. Over the years, Kingdom Hearts has spawned many titles and introduced many new elements to its gameplay. Over the years, the series has also grown in many new and strange ways. But today we're going to be taking a look at the first game. How well has it aged? How does it hold up over 21 years after its initial release? There are multiple versions of the game, and we'll be diving into all those versions throughout, but overall, I'm of the opinion that the game has aged very, very well. Now, I realize that's coming from the perspective of a hardcore gamer. Someone who's more of a casual gamer may see it differently, but in my opinion, the game still feels great.
Kingdom Hearts is, without a doubt, the most unique and imaginative video game franchise you'll ever experience. On the surface, Kingdom Hearts may look like a simple game for little kids, but that's where you'd be wrong. Don't judge a book by its cover, or a game by its bright colors and goofy, pun intended, characters. The first game, simply titled Kingdom Hearts, was released in the US on September 17, 2002. A collaboration between Squaresoft, right before its merger with Enix, and the Walt Disney Company, Kingdom Hearts tells the story of a young boy named Sora and his two best friends Riku and Kairi, who become separated after their world is destroyed by monsters called Heartless. After Sora finds himself alone, he befriends Donald and Goofy, who have been sent out into the worlds by their king, Mickey, to find the legendary Keyblade, and whoever has the power to wield it. That just happens to be Sora, who came into possession of the Keyblade right after he was torn from his world. The rest of the game follows Sora, Donald, and Goofy as they travel from world to world, beating back Heartless, trying to find Riku and Kairi, and discovering the origins of the Heartless and how to stop them from destroying more worlds. Don't assume that because the game has Disney attached to it, that means it's simple, clean, and safe. See what I did there? Square, the creators of Final Fantasy, are also attached to this franchise. Nearly all the games are rated E, with some being rated E10+. But what Kingdom Hearts lacks in visual maturity, it more than makes up for in story depth and character arcs. The first game, while definitely more childlike and simple in its narrative, compared to later installments, Looking at You, Chain of Memories, and Birth by Sleep, does manage to weave in some complex and deep ideas into its story via subtext and heavy symbolism. Underneath the A-plot of magic doors, Disney characters, world hopping, and bright shiny colors lies the themes of loss, the unbreakable bonds of friendship, the power of love, courage in the face of complete destruction, and the will to keep going even if you're all alone. All this is introduced in the first game alone, plus the concepts of the ultimate sacrifice to save the ones you love, and personal redemption despite whatever you've done in your past. Kingdom Hearts Final Mix was released in Japan on December 26, 2002, and acted as the extended edition of the original game, inserting new cutscenes, expanding on the story, and clarifying some plot points. The Final Mix also added new world enemies as well as secret bosses, and a new difficulty level, Proud Mode. The US would not see the Final Mix versions of Kingdom Hearts until it was released 11 years later, on September 10, 2013, as Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 Remix. The English version of Final Mix includes all the changes and additions seen in the Japanese release, plus palette swaps for some enemies and bosses, and a brand new coat of paint on the entire system. In order to take advantage of the advanced tech and capabilities of the PS3, the models, backgrounds, and graphics were all recreated from the ground up, but still within the framework of the original PS2 game. This is what makes it different from an actual remake, like Final Fantasy VII, which completely rebuilt that game from the ground up, as if it were the very first time making Final Fantasy VII. Though the OG Kingdom Hearts on the PS2 system holds deep nostalgia and a special place in my heart for me, I much prefer the Final Mix version, as it fixes several technical bugs found in the original, plus all the additional scenes and new enemies to beat through, as well as the updated look and exquisite soundtrack.
The easiest way for you to tell the game's age is perhaps the gameplay. While technically ahead of its time, there are some things about the gameplay that will feel a little outdated to some players who are used to more modern interpretations of gaming, mainly the level design. Because this was still a time when the concept of 3D gaming was relatively new, there's a lot of levels in the game that definitely feel outdated by today's standards. I'm looking at you, Deep Jungle, Agrabah, Monstro. I would also say a mechanic that may not have aged particularly well is a majority of the summons. The summons look great and they're really epic to look at, but they're rarely useful in most situations. Notice how I said majority. There is one summon who's very useful, that being Tinkerbell, ironically enough. You might not think it, but just try fighting the secret bosses on the final mix version and then tell me she isn't useful. Other than that, I would say that the game doesn't suffer from much. If you're talking about the original version on the PS2, there is one other problem, that being the camera. The version of Kingdom Hearts 1 most of you are used to playing uses the analog stick camera because it was changed to the analog stick in the HD remasters starting in 2013 on the PlayStation 3. However, for the original PlayStation 2 release and the original Final Mix release, the camera was on the shoulder buttons instead of the analog stick. This was pretty standard at the time as, again, 3D gaming was still in its early stages, and back then it worked pretty well for what it was, and I suppose it still does if you get used to it, but I definitely much prefer the stick interface that we have now that it's on newer consoles. The gameplay is surprisingly fast and fluid for its time. Sora has many different combo skills he can utilize, such as Sonic Blade, and the aerial and ground combos can be extended to be pretty flashy. There's also a wide variety of keyblades to choose from. Some are long, some are short, some give you attack bonuses, some give you HP bonuses, and some are incredibly strong but give you penalties like taking some of your MP away. This is obviously a remnant of the hardcore RPG mechanics that the game tries to pay nods to throughout, such as the PlayStation 1 era of Final Fantasy. However, this game is much easier than those games in general. In fact, if you're a hardcore gamer, anything less than Proud Mode is going to feel effortless on this game, except for the secret bosses, which can actually be pretty challenging if you don't know how to deal with them. However, just because the game is easy, that doesn't mean it's not fun. As I said before, the game is very fast and fluid. The bosses are also very cleverly designed, some of them requiring you to look for your enemy's weakness and exploit it, some of them requiring you to learn your enemy's pattern, and some of them requiring you to fight in special circumstances like being underwater in Atlantica. 95% of the goodness of the gameplay was there from the very original release. However, the HD remasters add the icing on the cake. For starters, as previously mentioned, they fixed the camera that was situated on the shoulder buttons to the right analog stick. They also add a couple fixes, like the summons option being on the bottom of the main command menu. And Combo Master was a really cool new ability that was added in the HD remaster that allows you to continue a combo even if you're not hitting your target. It sounds dumb, but trust me, it's useful when you're attacking long range and sliding dash doesn't quite make the cut. Overall, there are some aspects of the game that do feel a tad dated, but it's by no means the worst out there. And once the game grips your attention, I truly believe you'll forget all about any outdated aspects and become completely engrossed in the unique combination of RPG mechanics and action gameplay. Yes, the story is very nice. As it lays foundation for all the other games that come after it, there are many touching points in the game, many that we won't spoil, but I may cover that in a separate video at a later date. The graphics in the original Kingdom Hearts game have aged exceptionally well. While it's true that they're not on par with a cutting-edge game from 2023, they do still look pleasant even by today's standards. This is largely thanks to the game's toony art style. Toony games have always had a knack for aging better than realistic ones. But there's just something about Kingdom Hearts with its color balance that makes it stick out as one of the best looking games of its time. The facial animations, the surprising detail of the character models, and the simple but sometimes complex level design. All of this lends well to the game's graphics. There's also the game's CG cutscenes, which are only at the beginning and ending. Yes, they do look dated, but they also don't look bad, at least by my opinion. They have a certain charm to them, and for their time, when it comes to video games at least, they were quite cutting edge. Simply put, in 2002, this game was groundbreaking graphically, and in 2023, it's dated, but it still looks nice. What I'm saying is that its graphics are certainly never a hinder to it, and at times they're even quite pleasant, even more so in the HD remaster, which includes updated models, higher resolution textures, and other minor improvements.
Let's start with the bookends, the opening and closing songs. Simple and Clean, the one heard during the opening cinematic to the first game and its slower remix heard during the ending, was written and performed by the talented pop music legend Utada Hikaru. Utada is considered the voice of the franchise, having written and performed each opening and ending song for all of the Kingdom Hearts games to this day, and each of the 4 mainline songs she's written have gone on to be legendary in the RPG fanbase, with Kingdom Hearts 2's Sanctuary being the most well-known and well-loved, and is considered the best of the Utada songs in the Kingdom Hearts fanbase. Like the mainline songs, the scores for the entire franchise were written and composed by one person, the musical genius Yoko Shimomura, with occasional help on some games from other such talented composers as, and forgive me if I mispronounce these names, Takaharu Ishimoto, who composed The World Ends With You, and Tsuyoshi Sekito, who worked on the music for Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. Yoko's talent for world building and emotional connection through music is unlike anything I've heard in gaming, with only a few other titles coming close to touching the iconic tracks and soaring melodies found throughout the franchise. For Kingdom Hearts' final mix, like the game itself, the original music was given a complete overhaul. Where the original game relied heavily on minimal live instrumentation and digitally reproduced music, Final Mix was completely rescored with a full orchestra, and even added several new tracks and scene cues, adding further depth and immersion for the player. The score was iconic and pretty already, but like before, I much prefer the Final Mix to the original, as I can hear more instrumentation and musical cues and nuances throughout each track played in the game. Some of my favorite tracks in the game are Dive Into the Heart d'Estadi, Destiny Islands, Monstrous Monstro, Guardando nel Buio, and Disappeared. If you haven't played the game yet, I cannot recommend it enough. Kingdom Hearts is truly a gem among RPGs and well worth your time. The characters, both Disney, Square Enix, and original, are unique, engaging, funny, and memorable. I hope you have fun getting lost in the story the way that I have, and may your heart be your guiding key.
Overall, Kingdom Hearts 1 is a game that shows its age in places, but the places that it shows its age mostly play to its strength. Whether it's the nostalgia of the Disney worlds, or just the childlike innocence or yet adult-like complexity that the game presents to its viewer and player, Kingdom Hearts has aged exceptionally well, possibly better than any game from its era, and it is still more than worth your attention in 2023. If you haven't played the game before, or you have but it's been a long time, I highly recommend picking it up again. It really is a breath of fresh air. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and be sure to give me a like, comment, and subscribe, please. Okay? I said please, that means you have to do it. And lastly, I want to give a huge shout out to MaddoxWorks for helping me with this video. Like me, she is also getting her YouTube channel off the ground, and she makes very similar content to me, so if you like what I do, you'll probably like what she does.